Greetings, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me and see me. I will begin introductions while I wait for you all to confirm that you can hear me and see me. Greetings, everyone. It is such an honor to be here with you. Thank you for being here once more with us today. I am AuroRa. I am the founder of A.U.R.A Hypnosis Healing, as well as the channel to what we call the Galactics, which is the Ra throughout the universe. I am one of the channels of them, as you know, many of us channel of them all the time. It is such an honor to be here with you for our beautiful video today on alien races, a guide to alien races. Now, I am also the author of Galactic Soul History of the Universe, which is past life regression through internationally of different people's past life future regressions where they remembered the universe, their journeys, and it comes together and it tells our universe's a journey. Thank you. Now, what we'll be sharing today is a lot of my channeled information, the information that they've been giving me, as well as, of course, information that we received through these past lives as well. So if you haven't had a chance to write a question, feel free to write it now in the chat, as I will be answering them. And we have my beautiful friend and assistant, Minnie, there in chat watching out for questions. I ask that if you do not spam, and also if we do not consent, if you're here to be negative, we do not consent to your entities. So thank you. Thank you. Good. Y'all can hear me. Wonderful. All right, let's begin. So with that there is much we've been sharing glimpses of it through all the different roundtables and videos that we've recently made with Laura Eisenhower, Marissa, and the author of She Bang, the creation story of Mother God, as well as with Dawn from the Return to the Priestess. Now, that's when we started sharing some of it, as well as we've been sharing the glimpses. Now, I wanted to put everything together for you in a video so that you can understand exactly what the different alien races are out there. Of course, there's an infinity of alien races. However, we're going to put them together as much as possible through this video here today. If you have a question right before. Greetings. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the beautiful comments there. Now, let's begin with the understanding that within this universe, there are 13 specific dimensions. However, we can't call it quite a universe because it goes beyond that, but let's separate it into, say, sections of a universe. Is the best way I can explain that. And then remembering that everything is infinite, and everything that we're going to talk about has an infinite of possibilities and within all time and space. Okay. So now, okay, I wanted to start off with, so within the 13 dimensions, now we've talked about how source is both zero and all dimensions, as you know, we fractalize from source. Now, as we're going through, specifically though, this universe is the universe is the phoenix. Okay, that's what we are within this universe, the phoenix. Now, the phoenix is the very first dragon of creation. She is the fire element, the etheric, plasmic fire element, the sun energy, because, you know, that's what the sun is. Stars are these plasmic, different frequencies and vibrations of plasmic, flamed, eternal fire. Each one of these stars have a different frequency, vibration, color, soul group, basically within each individual collective consciousness of star. Okay, now each star then has planets that you could look at the infinity of all the stars that are in our skies. As we don't see all of them, of course, there's still infinite more. If you were to look at all the stars in our sky, then you see stars, right? Then what actuality, every star has then a system of planetary spheres. That is not quite how science, says it. It's different than how they say how our planets revolve around the sun. It's a little different than that. So to understand, okay, we have stars that are collective soul groups of consciousness. That's why when people say, "Oh, this is my soul group," that means that you're from the same star. The very star that was that manifested and created the very first beings of creation were the angelics, which was the star called Zen. This Zen star was the very first angelic beings of creation that when and then then creation began to continue to ripple out. Okay, as it continued to ripple out, then there were an infinity again, but we'll stick with this universe here. So when we travel down to this universe, this is a school. Every grade level, every dimension is a grade level that we organically basically pass and evolve. With it, every grade level and every dimension that we raise is it's an expansion of heart, is what it is. Expanding of consciousness and expansion of heart. The more that you expand at every dimension, your consciousness, then you also expand your heart. And as you continue to expand and balance out both of these, both your consciousness and your heart, your infinite love, then you graduate out into the next dimension of this universe. The reason why this universe is the Phoenix is because we are on a constant endings, rebirth, endings, a death in many forms of spiritual energy, spiritual self, and then a rebirth. We go through this constant cycle within our daily life, as well as within every dimension, every star constellation. Well, not really constellation, every star system, every soul group. We're going through this constant, okay, I completed this, endings, death of, you can say, organic death of this situation, this experience that I've gained, what I needed to gain. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So collectively, and individually, we're all going through this process profoundly and infinitely within time and space. Okay. So now that you have a little overview of that, now within this universe, there is both the dark and the light, which is organic. Now, which is part again of the darkness could be seen as a endings of a kind, like a endings, and then the sun could be like a new beginning, like our day, right? Where sun goes down, we're coming to an end of the day, and then the moon is there, right, to give us light, and then the sun comes up, it's a new beginning, a new day. So that's the way you can imagine the entire universe is like that. Now, of course, there was infringements, which we'll talk along the way. But that is an organic overview of why our universe is so beautiful and so sought out, because this is where souls at a beginning level begin to grow, learn, and then start expanding from each grade level. Okay. Now, typically, we were able to once continue to keep going, and then we were able to ascend out from the 13th dimension. Right now, within the 13th dimension, you can say that we are in a bit of what is the word? The borders are shut down. The reason why the borders are shut down is because what happened is when the Archons came in, which we'll talk about in a little bit. They didn't come in, but once they started infringing and compromising people and like venom, like a virus, they wanted to contain so that it wouldn't continue to spread as intensely as it could have to the higher dimensions, though there are some infringements through other universes and other dimensions that are higher than the 13th dimension. But again, this was a universe that was targeted by the artificial archons, because you can say they are the younger souls, but not the younger souls. It's just that they are in the lower dimensions of consciousness through each dimension. Okay. We want to ensure that you understand all this very clearly now. Okay. Now, Someone's asking, how can you find or out what star group one belongs to? Well, when you look at stars, you will notice that each star is a different color. It's not how they paint them, they're actually a spheric, plasmic. So look up what stars really look like. There's been some people who have recorded it and they look. I'll add a link actually after we're done here, and you guys can click it there. So it looks like a spheric, plasmic, fire, etheric energy that in every single star has a different color. That's what actually stars look like with your physical eyes when you zoom in on them. Okay. Now, we understand that. Okay. And how do you find them? That's something that you would have to work within self, perhaps, talk to the stars themselves, 88 constellations, and see which one you feel most connected to, and then trust your intuition with that. Of course, we always say before you start trying to communicate, call forth on your guides, your angels, your higher self to surround you with infinite love light to ensure that you are channeling the clearest information. Your I am source love light, right? Expanding around you. Okay. Now, yeah, so each star is a different color. It's a different sound frequency as well, and a different vibration. Then the stars then incarnate into the planets. So we come out of the stars and then incarnate into the planets. That's where we have our actual incarnations. We are created in the stars, which are spheric spheres of plasmic energy of source itself that are spread out throughout the universe. Then these spheric, then we come out like little seeds, and then we go to whichever planetary planet we have decided to incarnate into. Now, depending on the dimension, the denser the planet, depending on that, is different. Now, if you want to know more details on this, as this is quite detailed and more, there's a lot more to this, we have quantum galactic Akashic reading that you can join us under Patreon. The first class actually begins the third Sunday of this month. So love to see you there if you feel like you want to travel in the stars for yourself or even travel for others as well. But to me, it's amazing because you get to travel for yourself through the Akashic and remember yourself. Okay. So then so we understand, okay, we have that clearly there. So these incarnations, there is a organic role that we play within the dark and the light. There's organic darkness, not to the extent, nowhere near to the extent that it has been compromised here, with pedophilia and rape and this violence. No, that's not part of the organic, how do we explain that? That's not part of the organic construct of this universe. That's something that came from, of course, to the extent that what it is, that's something that came from another universe, which would be the Archons. Okay, so alien races are spread out throughout this universe. We'll be talking about this universe. However, sometimes we travel to other universes and other dimensions. So there's organic life, and there are hybrids, and there are then also artificial. They're not entities, they're just artificial. Organic life is all of us within this universe, all of us that are here, because physically within the simulation, the matrix that we're in. But then also, once we're out of this simulation, this physical simulation, and we're incarnating in the universe, we are able to retain more information and more remembrance of our soul as we're incarnated in all the different dimensions. Now, just about every single star cluster has dimensions starting from all the way from, say 0 to 13 dimensions. Okay, now what else? Let's see. And then as you go travel down to the lower dimensions, that's when we see the more the forgetfulness we are, because we are farthest away from source or our soul group of consciousness of stars, right? Now, alien races. We have seen through many different forms of alien races, whether it's the 360 sessions that I've done in 3 years of past life regressions, or a hypnosis. And then we've also been communicating through channeled information through our YouTube channel here for over 3 years now of different races. So let's talk about some organic races. The organic races, that means, what does organic means? It means that it is natural. It's original to our source and to our universe and our, yes, our 13 dimensions. But again, they go higher. Now, so organic, right? And then there are hybrids. Hybrids can be both negative and positive. A hybrid could be if you see it in a positive way, it could be a multitude of different alien races combined together, because what they explain, like the Zen star, that's when the angelics came forth into fruition. So then, through the angelics, then they birth, different forms of angelics as well as other alien races through the different constellations that we're seeing in our skies. Okay. Like, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, Phoenix constellation, the 13 horoscope constellations of all the 13 of them, and up to the 88 constellations and further. Now, then, so those are organic beings that you can say if organically you've combined, when you're making souls, you've combined different parts of different races to transform them. So when we're looking at this universe, we're seeing the different, through every single organism that we're looking at, we're actually seeing the different parts of the races of this universe. So even down to the plant life, every single one of them is a different race. And then we have the trees that we always talk about that are pillars of light. And even rocks and crystals, of course, are actually minerals and pieces of the universe itself, and pieces of planetary spheres that carry high vibrational. They're not even physical in form. They are just energy itself within the quantum world. So, and then there are insects and animals, and then also us humans. We have, our major races, like, as society calls it, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. However, every single one of us is actually a different, not every single one of us, but the majority of us who are here volunteering, assisting the earth, are souls that came forth from the stars from different dimensions, either from here or even higher than the 13th dimension and on. And then there are souls that began at a soul level of the 5th dimension. The 5th dimension which was Lemuria, Atlantis, and then they regressed to the 3rd dimension, which we're at now. So some of these souls were new souls that were just learning, school, and then were trying to expand, just like every other soul went through this process. Okay. I'm going to be taking questions soon. Now, okay. So then there are also artificial intelligence. We'll call it that, because we can't call them entities, because we're all entities. We're all spirits. So all of us are entities in this universe because we're a spirit. We're a consciousness, all within the same category, just different words. Now, let's see. Okay, we understand that. Now let's talk about some of these organic lives that are positive. There are every single insect that you see, just about every single insect that you see, there is a humanoid of that. So whether it's a beetle, a ladybug, it's similar to Star Wars when there are, a bar or a port, and there's all these different, types of alien races. It's similar to that. Okay, and there's all sorts of kinds of organic entities. So the animals as well in our Earth are a representation to all the different animal humanoids, but they're not technically animals. They're technically humanoids, right? So there's a elephant humanoid, a bird humanoid, which would be more of the avians, the blue avians, but there's different kinds. Just like you see like an infinity, thousands of races of birds, there's thousands of, say, bird humanoids. Okay, so think about that. They're cat humanoids, dog humanoids, crystalline humanoids, energy humanoids. They're just made of the plasmic energy, flamed humanoids, gold humanoids, all the elements that you see around you. There's different types of alien races for that. Okay. There's elemental humanoids, elven humanoids. Yes. It goes on and on. Dragons that are also elemental, and griffins and everything we talk about, fays and pixies and all these different beautiful positive alien races. Now, so we see glimpses of them, and everyone who you're talking to, so like if you say you're walking down the street and you're seeing different people, how amazing is it to be able to see them in their true form? So you have your neighbor passing by, and then you realize, oh my goodness, they're like this beautiful, like magical giraffe humanoid, in reality. And that's how we teach the galactic quantum Akashic how to travel, because you'll be able to connect to their, say, higher self, or sometimes oversoul aspects, right? So you'll be walking, somewhere else, and then you see all of a sudden they turn into this like gigantic, magnificent, maybe elemental being that has, that looks like they're made out of a tree, a bark, but they're humanoid, and they have like, butterflies and different things and flowers growing on them in their higher self perspective. And you'll meet another person, and then you'll realize, oh, their higher self is this crystal being from this crystal planet, and this is what they do. So, okay. So that is the organic. So remember, everything that you see on Earth, there is an organic humanoid race that they were represented through. Now, they're the representations of the universe. And of course, we couldn't fit them all into one planetary sphere, Mother Earth, our Mother Sophia, within one matrix, organic matrix simulation before it turned artificial, inverted. So let's see. If you want to know more about what I'm talking about the matrix, are on my book, Galactic Soul History of the Universe. The last chapter goes into the matrix pods that explains this. Okay. Now, much to talk about in 1 hour. Okay. So that's hybrid. They could be, and then there's also negative polarized hybrids, which then that brings us into negative polarized entities. Now, negative polarized entities, the majority of them are ones that are in our universe, that are in not a physical body, that are actually in our universe, like their consciousness are in our universe. Negative polarized entities tend to be grays. We just had an A.U.R.A regression that came out. You can watch that. That gives you more detail about grays. Grays, there's all types of different grays depending on what experiment they began from, whether it was an organic experiment or whether it was something that was, created artificially, generically, from the Archons. And then there are also other negative polarized entities that we have seen strongly are reptilians. We see them, just like I said, there's many different types of birds. There's also, reptilian stracos that are different types of reptilians out there in the universe. Now, just to explain, reptilians were positive, but then they became recruited and then forced and tricked, because once they agreed, they made like a contract. You know how they recruit, like here, the army recruits younglings. They recruited reptilians because they had a specific ability that they wanted. The specific ability is that they could feed off light. That's what they did. So they fed off the excess amount of light in the universe just to create balance. So once the Archon saw that, of course, to them, that would be something that they would want to try to control because they want to feed off light. Okay, which we'll go over the Archons in a minute. So there's, yes, reptilians, all types of different races. And let's see. There are also mantis beings. These are typically negative polarized. It is a rarity that they ever are positive polarized. So the majority of people think that they're actually contacting and communicating to a mantis being that is positive, but they're being, majority of the time, infringed upon, and they're being lied upon. Mantis beings are one of the strongest telepathic entities out there. So they are all mind and basically do the biddings for the Archons because of the way that they some of these things are so hard to explain. So because of their intellectuality, how they're able to give fake visions, go into the mind, trick people, tell them things, and they're really able to, through the mind, infringe. Reptilians are, the majority of what they do is that they take pieces of themselves, like a piece of themselves, and that's in chapter 1 of my book, where there was the beginning experiments of that. They take a piece of themselves, concentrate, it's a piece of their consciousness, a piece of them, and then this piece then goes into and attaches to people. And the majority of people, from my sessions that I've been conducting through 3 years, over 90% of people have a reptilian consciousness attached of some kind through the infinite of lives that they've lived. Okay. So that's what they do. And then once they attach, then they drain upon the light of the person and they keep them in a lower density. They also, it's hard because once you have, say, a piece of a reptilian attached to you, in a sense, it's like you take some of their karma, some of their dark energy, and then it's like a poison. It keeps feeding you. It keeps making you angry. All these more easily, say, controllable into being more of the density of Earth versus more of the light, love, the light of Earth. Okay. So what this consciousness just kind of feeds, it's a parasite. You're the host and they're a parasite. And then what they're feeding is actually they're feeding the Archons. Okay. There are also snakes. There's like these giant cobras that are typically negative polarized, and they're similar like the reptilians, the lizard reptilians that we humanoid ones, that we often help positive polarize through the sessions. So these snakes, they're like that. They attach as well pieces of themselves. Now, typically, as you've seen, once we talk to them, we help them positive polarize. They tell us how they were forced. They didn't. It was like they were just being controlled, and that's what we see here on Earth, is that they've been, trying to control Earth so that they're able to wield everyone around as puppets. Okay. other negative polarized that I've seen are dark elvens that have been compromised by archons and dark reptilians that were being controlled by the archons. They inserted implants into them, other negative technologies that then started allowing for them to be able to control them. Dark bindings, dark black magic, all these different things that these, pedophilic, Illuminati, black magic stuff feeds all of that. And, how they try to keep us in fear and control and all that. That feeds their different agendas of New World Orders. Okay. Then, let's see. Okay, we're doing really good. Okay. Let me see if there are any other. There's also been like canine, a few canine alien races that I've seen that were doing the biddings for the Archons. So all of them are basically just doing biddings for the Archons. They are agreeing in some form, and once they agree, they become compromised, and then they become their puppets again. Okay, yes. See if there's, yep, Grace. Now, along the way, there's also soulless beings. There's entities that look like Stranger Things. There are actual entities that look like that. There's entities that look like that with no heads, and they're soul collectors, and they walk around the different parts of the universe collecting souls, and then ultimately feeding, which is really creepy, but ultimately feeding the Archons. So they go through and they collect souls. They're soul collectors. There's all sorts of different types of negative polarized entities like that that have different forms that just basically are there to collect souls in the universe. Lost souls, the ones that became so lost that deeply, deeply forgot themselves in the pits of the dark, inverted darkness and pain and trauma and all that. Okay. Now, let's see what else. The Greys typically tend to be more of they began as like kind of like a maintenance to keeping systems at bay, systems that were organic technology made out of crystals. And then through time and space, they began to morph. We talked about how some people who are inserting artificial viruses, these different V's into them, are a beginning formation of future Greys in some time and space in timelines. So that's, what they would like us to be, these controlling, like they can control us like zombies, or just be more easy, to wheeled around, I guess. Now, let me see if there are any questions so far on what I've talked about. Okay, looks good so far, specifically what I'm talking about. Okay, then I'm going to start answering questions as soon as I talk about the artificial. So then artificial archons, as we explained, the universe expands infinitely. There's universes, many different universes. Every single universe is made up of a different construct, a construct of whatever those creator beings decided to make for themselves in their universe. Everybody has, a different universe collectively as different perspectives. Like when you look in a kaleidoscope, you see the kaleidoscope and how it shifts. And even though it's the same symbols in the kaleidoscope, but every time it shifts and it moves, that's how you could envision creation. Creation is as ever moving motion. It could never stand still. It's always ever moving motion, moving ever, always, infinitely, always. So that's how creation is constantly shifting. So that's the easiest way that I can explain to you the universes, even though they might have similar consistencies of a material made up of their universe. When you shift perspective, it's a different, right? vision that you look like a kaleidoscope, and you shift again, it's a different. So every single one of them is different like that, and very uniquely and beautiful. Now, at the beginning of time and space, at some point in time when the universes were creating, there was a universe that these beings, these organic, they were organic originally beings, decided to by free willed expression, okay? Because all these universes have free willed expression, right? That's our number one goal. We don't overstep boundaries. We don't tell anyone what to do. We allow everything in creation to express itself, because otherwise we become the archons, like the archons themselves, who are dictators, who are tyrannical, who are trying to control others, right? So we don't go that way if we're benevolent beings. Now, they decided that they were going to remove the light within them, which the light is their organic within them, their souls. So then they became these archons that are justice, darkness, inverted artificial intelligence darkness that has an absence of light. So what happens is that it's like they're on a constant hunger with no rules. They have no rules, no sacred laws in their universe, because once they remove the organic, they remove all parts of the organic. They became an abomination, the abomination of creation. Now, typically, as you've heard us talk before, entities are not able to enter other universes because everyone has a construct, and everyone can only be the match to that galactic construct of a universe. So what happened was that they figured out how to, through negative technologies, how to pierce through portals, through an opening of universes and dimensions. And it's just like an intelligence that travels through the negative technologies. Okay, so the more technologies that we continue to have, the more that they started figuring out how they can connect through the technologies, but initially through their technologies. And then they use the grays, the mantis beings, the reptilians, because they're the ones that could travel, because they're organic to this universe, right? So they can travel. So they use them because that they're their, say, like a video game, they're the character to that video game. And that's the way that they can control. They start, trying to plague people. I know earlier Minnie shared in our earlier live video where how they start compromising, and then people believe it, and then it spreads like a virus. In her A.U.R.A regression she shared, you could watch that. That's it was a very important one. Now, because it's important that sometimes when you're in a group setting, someone allows this archon energy in through whatever lower density or ego, and then it spreads to the rest that believe that person. But yet, and the minute they consent to that person, they become compromised just like that person, and then it continues to spread. So only those who are strong in their hearts, who are, strongly using their source, love, light, not consenting, the majority of those people are able to filter out what's archon and what's not. The archons, what initially they want is, there's just, again, it's like an emptiness void that can never be filled for them, because it's not there anymore. They erased it from them. They deleted it from them, but yet they still have this empty void of wanting to fill that light. So then they feed off everything else that has light, that is organic in the universes. You guys understand? So that's what archons are. They're just intelligence and no organic in them. They're soulless. Because they have no consciousness and they're not an entity like us, they're soulless. They have no rules, and they don't listen to anyone's rules. Now, someone had commented in one of my recent YouTube videos. They said, well, if the archons don't follow rules, what's the point of me shielding? I don't see how shielding would stop the Archons from, uh, which it's a great question though, but definitely not aligning with it in a divine benevolent way. Because in other words, you definitely are allowing them to connect when you say that type of mentality is what's kept us light workers in this inverted cycle of repeating back, and back. Where remember what we say is we're not here to get entangled in the 3D, in the false artificial matrix of ego, because that would be egoic. We're here to help all of the people who have been stuck in these inverted cycles, to help them release. So, but with that, we also have to constantly be watching our path and our decisions. So what we can tell you is that there are an infinity of galactic ships above us. So if you set an intention and you say you do not consent, whatever force fields you're using that connects to your soul, colors, Merkabahs, pyramids, like we always talk about, elements around you. If you set this, the minute you wake up, when the sun is going down is what we recommend, before you go to sleep, for sure. What happens is that your benevolent galactic soul family, your who you are from, your angelic team, whoever is part of your organic blueprint, even makeup, and your star family, will ensure that when an inverted, an archon, a negative polarized entity tries to infringe, the truth is that they'll go through a galactic battle. They will step in that instant when that entity tries to infringe, they will remove them. And so long as you keep reclaiming your organic path and your organic timeline, they can go in and say, eradicate them and erase them from your organic timeline, because you are walking your most organic timeline and you're saying, I don't consent to these infringements. So yeah, they can instantly, because they're always watching over you. That is the truth. We've been tricked to not realize that they're watching over us. But yes, they're in galactic ships watching over us, and they're keeping track of us and making sure that we're safe. Especially if you reclaim your sovereignty and you're like, I'm a sovereign being, because at that point you've given them permission, because they're organic benevolent beings. So once you've given them permission, hey, watch out for me. I know that I am, yes, I'm this unlimited being throughout time and space. However, I am in this density of this 3D and inverted matrix. Though I walk my most organic path, I am still in it, but maybe walking next to it, right? So keep an eye out. Help me keep an eye out for myself. Give me signs, give me synchronicities, give me numbers, give me dreams, so I can stay back on my path, on my organic path. Okay, so there is, yes, it is beautiful. So that is the biggest thing on how you're able to stop these artificial infringements, and they will stop them. Trust them. They're you. They're your sisters. They're your brothers. They're, in one point of view, you all fractalize from one another, and perhaps in a star, or all of us from source. Know that you're infinitely, boundlessly surrounded by this love, light, protection. Okay? Keep walking it. Keep walking that path. Now, let's go ahead. I know I talked for a long time, but we're going to go ahead and open them up for questions, as many as I can take right now. Hope you all are enjoying this. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe and hit the thumbs up button and share it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Questions. Okay. This is a mother's question. My child asks, how can we tell which one's races are good or bad? We talked about it in some how to shield, but it's always good to get information how to present it to our children. Okay. So it is a frequency. There are many forms that the child might be able to tell. negative polarized entities typically give you the creeps. You feel sick to your stomach. They will, they will feel very like it feels like energy trying to come into your auric field and pressing on it, not like a gentle pressure. It's like a pressing, trying to penetrate your auric energy. Now, what's really important is that through channeling, the quantum alchemy channeling, through the Isis Priestess course, we go through steps on how to ensure that you do not communicate or allow negative polarized alien races, because one of the things that they love to do is they like to do through the Archon's control is they'd like to integrate into you, into your soul's blueprints, into attaching to you, because then you, at that point, in a form, you could be part gray or part artificial or part reptilian, once they've integrated into your DNA, your spine, your blueprint, or different parts of your body, your organs. So that's what they're trying to do. How do we get in? And that's what so that this is such an important question. I know we sound like repeated broken records. The truth is that if you surround yourself with your I am source of light, you've created such a high vibration of filter that when someone speaks to you and tries to say, hey, yes, I'm a positive polarized being. Oh, yes, definitely. I'm your soul family. And they're really like this like really bad negative entity, alien race. You'll be able to filter out through your truth meter. Everyone has it. Everyone has your gut, your intuition, your feelings. Don't just take someone's, like an entity that you're speaking to, don't just take their answer for 100%. No, question the crap out of them. If they are negative polarized, they get annoyed eventually by you. Don't ever let them come into your field unless you are, fully sure on who they are. There are many different reptilians specifically that pose as, fallen angels that are, that can also be like, or they try to, through their minds, but usually they work together. So like the reptilian will try to, will attach, and then the mantis or the mantis specifically will try to trick you and tell you, oh, yes, he's Archangel Michael. That reptilian you're talking to, he's Archangel Michael. So this is a lot of where all the false programming on the archangels is, because it's typically a negative polarized reptilian and Archon. And then the Archons are very good at giving you false visions, false images, and false timelines that they're constantly trying to make you create the false timelines for yourself, because only you can create your own false timelines. They are, yeah. Okay. So yes, that filter is extremely important. 555, send love to the children of the earth. As we're talking about a child's question. Beautiful. Okay. Now, so that will become your truth meter, the shielding, whatever you're using. Okay. Question. And you could come up with different signatures. Like if you're talking to Michael, you can ask him, show me a specific sign, a symbol when it's you, and no, it's only you. If you haven't learned any of our teachings through like the Isis Priestess course, we give you alchemy symbols for the different angels and magical creatures, and the quantum galactic Akashic actually gives you alchemy symbols for the 88 constellations that create such a high vibration that basically negative entities cannot pretend they're your friend or pretend that they're positive, because of the alchemy symbol won't allow it, because it's alchemy symbols from the Divine Mother of creation. So symbols are very important. You can set up your own symbols as well for different benevolent beings that you speak to. Okay. All right. Next question. Oh, next question. Someone's talking about mantis. There's much talk about mantis race where people were wondering if they are positive or negative polarized. I already answered that. Okay. Yeah, definitely negative polarized, and they like to label themselves as neutral, but that is typically a trick. Like say neutral, that usually means that they're most likely negative polarized. Do those mantis have a connection to our sweet, beautiful praying mantis insects of Earth? And yes, they would have a connection to them. I wouldn't say that, the beautiful insects from our Earth, they're an example, like we explained. They're an example of these mantis beings. Okay. That went wrong with intellectuality and really allowed the archons to control them. Okay. I'm going to only answer races, questions on races, okay? I'm interested in better understanding the Greys using human woman for reproduction purposes. How can we assist the hybrid children? Are they, as they are energetically connected to women being abducted? So Greys are, again, they have like laboratories throughout the universe that are really controlled by the Archons, and they're workers. They're like their worker, entities. And because they are Greys are so hard to explain, but if they are using the reproductive, that means that these particular Greys are not able to reproduce themselves. So then they only reproduce through the easiest way is we could say artificial. Okay, and the majority of Greys are soulless, but that's so hard to explain. In an energetic point of view, so there's so many different. So then there's soulless ones. There is some that are beginning souls, and then there are some that are completely, artificial. Yeah, there's many different kinds. So it depends on which one you're asking. But in this example, they're using women's, eggs because they can't create eggs themselves. And they're trying to, in a negative polarized way, in this perspective, they're trying to perhaps evolve their Gray race into being stronger and more powerful, like creator beings, like organic life is, like humans, like how, or alien races, the positive polarized ones, how powerful we are, as creators. So they're trying to have like a negative polarized hybrid of both qualities of creator beings of organic, and then also be the archons being able to control them so that they can still continue to do their biddings. Okay. Yeah. Now, what I can tell you is that typically women and males get abducted because they don't know that they're sovereign beings. And we're asleep most of the time when this is happening. Or we could also be awakening, but yet we still have yet to take our power back and say we do not consent and surround ourselves, call for our galactic teams and all that. We have yet to do that. So then when we're going into the delta brainwave, to them it's like you're consenting. If you're not setting boundaries when you go to sleep, you're basically leaving yourself open. So to them it's like you're telling them yes, they can abduct you and do experiments on you. And they start as early as the wombs of the little girls, right? We've talked about that. Do all beings have a belly button? I've heard some don't, that call themselves a created being. Do you have anything to share about them? I'm interested in life without belly buttons. So all beings that were birthed forth from divine feminine through the sacred way that we birth our children here on earth would have a belly button. All beings that would not, then there would be more of an energy, a creation of source, a creation of, there could be a creation of source, or also a creation of alien race that maybe doesn't, birth like that. Maybe they birth in eggs, energetic eggs. There's an infinity to this. There's also, there's ways that some alien races create like versions of themselves by a extreme focus of consciousness, and then it's not negative polarized like the reptilians, how they could create a piece of them. So you could say in a positive polarized way, there are races that can duplicate a child or themselves in many forms. There are also, let's see. Also, grays would not have belly buttons because, they would not be birthed forth from wombs. They're not birthed from, organic. I'm reading the questions to see what we have directly on races. Now, this person saying that they had a dream, alien races with white skin and like a tortoise shell with sensory stones on skin. That sounds beautiful. Is there a name for the race? There are no names. We're just the ones that like to name them. There are only vibrations and frequencies throughout creation. There are no names. Yeah, these tortoise beings sound very feel very beautiful and positive. So just like this person dreamt of these alien races, again, the potentials are infinite as far as alien races. Okay, we're about to come up on finishing up. And somebody wants to know, why do I see people's change color or facial features change when speaking to some different species? Yeah, so it depends. If some people, if you're trying to read their animal totem, their face can change into their animal totem, they're like a humanoid animal totem. That's one version. However, you are most likely seeing their true higher self version, where they're a different type of alien race, where they have different type of eyes of many different forms, eyes made out of crystals, eyes made out of all the colors that you can think of, eyes made out of stars. It's infinite. Okay. Now the next one. Okay. Someone's asking, before the fall of Atlantis, this vacation spot, Gaia, how did they treat the negative and positive polarities here? So it was before the fall. It was, what you can understand is that it was free-willed expression. And then as long as we ensured that we listen to the 13 sacred laws of the universe, where, we don't harm, we don't, the different parts of allowing, the throat chakra, speech of the throat chakra, allowing the law of vibration, allowing a person, we honored free will expression, and then we would use these sacred laws to ensure that we stayed within balance within ourselves, the collective, and then the different parts of the universe. That's how we did it. Okay. And those 13 keys, again, you can find them in my book. There's a whole chapter on them, and then on my website that goes into them, the different sacred laws, which are the 7 chakras, and then all the way and higher. Okay. Mm-hmm. Take one more question. Do soul collectors come into creation from humans feeling low vibrational emotions? Yes, that's a possibility. You yourself can create a soulless demonic entity with the buildup of your pain, or if you're being hateful, an accumulation of that can create a negative polarized entity. So let's see. In an organic point of view, there's the positive and then the negative polarized roles, where it was only again intended to be a glimpse of it to help us grow with but this really is never, this was never agreed to. This was never the intentions, what the Archons are doing with humanity and other parts of abducting children throughout the universe as well, of different races. Mm-hmm. Through, again, their soldiers. Okay. So soul collector can come from that. It could also be accumulation of a collective of, what they try to do is like keep the collective in this V thing that is happening right now, right? They're trying to, they can build. They'll try to build with a collective dark fear energy. They could build that energy and make it into black magic binding that then can create a soul collector as well. Yeah. Yeah, they're stealing light for the Archons. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the soul collectors. What do Archons look like? They tend to look like, if you were to see them in physical form, they do tend to look like abominations of different, they look like monsters, you can say, gigantic, also spiders, and also, but artificial spiders, not organic spiders. Gigantic tentacle beings that like to stick their tentacles through dimensions, and once the person lowers the vibration or consents to them accidentally or consciously or unconsciously, and then they control them through the mind. Besides that, they look, what they truly are is that they're an intelligence that connects to all that is artificial or technology. So then they don't have a form, they attach through the technology. So they like to attach to people who have artificial in them. That's why they're trying to, do all these different things, inserting, viruses and different negative technologies into people, like metals, replacing people's, legs with metal and all these different things, because then that's easier to infringe on the person to be able to connect to them, because through metals, through technology and the people, then they connect through that inside the people. You understand? So yeah, there's no form for them. Okay. Last question here is, can you be infringed upon only by listening to a video or something, even though you shield? Yeah, we've had sessions or regressions where the higher selves of people there was a person, one of our regressions, there was a person listening to a person channel. They thought that they were channeling Arcturians in this circumstance, but they were actually channeling this, like, I can't remember exactly, but it was like, it was like this really odd entity that was, if I'm remembering correctly, because there's so many sessions, but it was like this, it was like a poison energy, like venom. And then I believe it had consciousness, and it would attach, and then it would feed venom into the person. And they were tricking the channeler to think that they were channeling the Arcturians, and they weren't. And just because that person was there listening, they got this infringement, and it fed into them, and it actually was going to turn into, I think, cancer of the blood or something like that. So yeah, all these different things of illnesses are just a rooted artificial, some kind of entity or artificial within that is causing the illness. Okay. Can you share more on Orions? I was going to end it, but that seems like a really good question. Okay. The birthing point of reptilians is our Orion, the Orion belt, one of the areas. Now, what happened is that, as we know, the Archons recruited them, and now they're their soldiers. So that's what I can share there. That is why there were many different battles even going on till now, and even in Sirius, the star constellation, that are going on, because these were some of our original birthing points of races. Okay. All right. Hope you enjoyed this beautiful video that was created with infinite love for you and wisdom and knowledge, so that you could become empowered every day, sovereign every day, walking your most organic timeline, also not consenting to infringements, artificial, inverted of this matrix. This is what we do in this YouTube channel. We share as many perspectives as we can of these types of empowering and soul freeing, releasing of entrapments, channelings. So thank you for being here. I love you with all that I am. I am in the greatest humbleness and gratitude for you for finding your way and following your heart and mind. It truly has been a joy to be here with you. Again, subscribe, share this video, hit the thumbs up, and write a comment to help the viewings on it. Thank you. Love you, honor you, and respect you. We're about to hit 13,000 subscribers. Subscribe. Love you, and I will see you next Friday in our 1 p.m. Central Time live video. Blessings.